Hey guys, welcome to your very first chemistry video. So we are going to be using these videos on top of lectures to help you guys to understand the content a little bit more and hopefully reducing the amount of time that I stand in front of the classroom so you guys can own your own learning. So today what we are going to do is we are going to first look at our agenda. We've already done our do now, so we're going to go over the agenda right now. We're going to then go over objectives, so what you're going to be able to do by the end of today. We're going to start looking at what is matter, breaking down what the atom is. You're going to have plenty of practice at the end, and then you are going to be taking your open note quiz. When you see this symbol here, right, it might bring up some memories of your childhood. If I ask you what cartoon character is named after some components of this structure, it might take you a little bit of time, but at the end of the day, we got our lovely Jimmy Neutron. I might be dating myself. Hopefully you guys know who he is. If not, I strongly recommend you go on Netflix and you start binge watching. Now, this structure that is on his t-shirt, you might be asking, what is it? And that's going to bring us back to our unit today. Before we begin talking about the atom, though, I want to throw it back to biology, right? And in biology, you guys learned that the smallest unit of life is what? It's pictured here. If you guys all said the cell, you are 110% correct. Congratulations. However, right, the cell makes up living organisms, but what abiotic structure or non-living structure makes up cells themselves? If you guys have answered the atom, aka what we're learning today, you guys would be correct. Okay, so what we are going to do by the end of today, you guys will be able to describe, okay, general atomic structure of neutral atoms. You're going to be able to use notation to determine the characteristics of subatomic particles. You can determine the number of protons, neutrons, and electrons given the mass number and or atomic number and symbol. Okay, so that is a lot of words. They will make sense, hopefully, by the end of this lesson. Okay, but our essential question, what we're trying to answer is, what is an atom? Okay, so before we start talking about the atom, we have to understand what chemistry is, right? Chemistry as a whole looks at the study of the composition of matter and the changes that this undergoes, right? And in order to understand matter, we have to understand what matter is, right? So the term matter describes all physical substances around us, right? I am matter, you guys are matter, the desk that you're sitting at is matter, the chair you're sitting on, right? The pencil that you're holding or pen that you're holding to take this note, the paper that you're taking it on, those are all matter, right? Matter is anything that has a mass, okay? Mass is another way that we talk about weight. It's not the same thing, but it's another way. And it's something that takes up space, so it has a volume, okay? And the universe is made up of matter and energy, okay? Matter itself is made up of atoms, right? So this is bringing us to what we are learning today. So an atom is the smallest whole particle of matter, okay? A formal definition that I want you guys to take down on your paper is an atom is the smallest particle of an element that is going to retain the properties of that element, okay? So for example, if I have a cube that is pure gold, right? Gold itself is going to be made up of a billion trillion atoms of gold, okay? And the smallest particle that we have, right, is going to be that atom of gold, okay? It's still going to have all of the properties that that entire cube has, but it itself is an element, right? And that element is made up of atoms of gold, okay? An atom itself is a spherically shaped specimen, right? So meaning that a spherical shape, it's a round circular shape, okay? A perfect example is this right here. We also saw this on Jimmy Neutron's shirt, right? So it's all tying together, okay? In the center here, we have what is called a nucleus, right? In bio, you guys learned that a nucleus is the center of a cell, okay? It determines the identity of the cell. Same thing here, right? The nucleus is the center of an atom, okay? It is positively charged, and it contains protons and neutrons, okay? So a proton, neutron in the nucleus. And right now, this nucleus makes up 99% of the mass, okay? So my protons, my neutrons exist in my nucleus, and that nucleus takes up almost 100% of the weight of an atom. Around it, you see these little orbitals, okay? And in these orbitals, floating around the nucleus are my electrons, and these are negatively charged particles, okay? In the last slide, right, we had proton, neutron, electron. These are all subatomic particles, okay? All atoms have 3 types of subatomic particles. They are your protons, your neutrons, and your electrons, okay? Your protons, okay, we said, exist in your nucleus, okay? They're located inside the nucleus. They have a positive charge. You can think proton, positive, both begin with P. And they are very, very large and very, very heavy compared to your electrons. Your neutrons, right? Your neutrons are also located in your nucleus, okay? Neutron nucleus. Neutrons, unlike protons, okay, have no electrical charge. They are neutral. And neutrons, like protons, right, are large and heavy, okay? That's why they contribute to the overall mass or the overall weight. Electrons, on the other hand, okay, they're extremely small, they're extremely light, they barely have any mass at all, okay? They are moving around the nucleus, so they're outside in these rings, okay? We call these rings orbitals, and they have a negative charge. So what we are going to do in the next slide and in your notes is we're going to go ahead and organize the structures of this atom as they serve, okay, our foundational knowledge of chemistry. So we need to know all of this stuff in order to have a good knowledge of chemistry. So what I want you guys to do is I want you to pause the video right now, and I want you to jot down this chart with all of this information, okay? And making sure that we take down all of this stuff so we know it. So pause right now and copy it down. All right. Next we have, okay, this magical, mystical thing called the periodic table of elements. It's probably one of my favorite things in the world. You guys will learn that as this semester goes on. I even have 2 fish named after 2 elements. Now, chemistry is the study of what things are composed of and how they change, right? And because we are looking at what things are composed of, we need to know the different elements that make up everything around us. And luckily, we have this magical, mystical table that will organize it for us. I am telling you now, you do not need to memorize everything that exists, okay? But you do need to know how to use this table, okay? So what we are going to do first, though, okay, is we're going to go ahead and analyze what this table can tell us about each individual element. And so we are going to begin looking at a singular element. Right now, we're going to be talking about neon, okay? The chemical symbol right here, okay, and the name will tell us what element it is. And an element is the simplest form of matter that has unique set of properties, okay? It's only made up of one type of atom. So every sample of neon is made up of a bunch of neon elements, or neon atoms, excuse me, okay? And I can tell a lot about neon just from this information here, okay? The Ne is my chemical symbol. So every single element has a chemical symbol, whether that is one capital letter or a capital letter and a lowercase letter, but all of them have a chemical symbol, okay? It also will have a chemical name, okay? These identify the element itself. It gives them its name. It's like how my name is Miss Round, right? You each yourself have your own name, okay? The number at the top, sometimes it's here, sometimes it's in the center. You can even look at your desk at your seating number and you will see the number at the top. This is your atomic number, okay? Only neon has an atomic number of 10, okay? So if you see a 10 here, it's automatically neon. If it had an 8 here, it is not neon, okay? It's another element, okay? The number at the bottom of your screen is your average atomic mass, okay? And we'll talk about the average atomic mass a little bit later in this slide, okay? So let's go back to what your atomic number is, okay? We said that only, right, neon has the atomic number of 10, right? We said 8 is not neon, it's actually oxygen, right? Your atomic number is the number of protons in the nucleus of an atom, right? And your atomic number, or the number of protons, determines the identity of your element, okay? So carbon, for example, has an atomic number of 6, which means it has 6 protons in its nucleus. Nitrogen, okay, has an atomic number of 7. It has 7 protons, okay? And elements are different because they contain different numbers, okay, of protons in their nucleus. If carbon has 6 protons and I add a proton, it's no longer carbon. It's now nitrogen because I now have 7, okay? And in a neutral atom, that means that my number of protons also equals my number of electrons, okay? So if I have carbon here, if I have 6 protons, I also have 6 electrons if it is neutral. We talked about your average atomic mass, but we're also going to talk about a mass number. And mass number is a number that cannot be found on the periodic table. Mass number is the mass of an atom, and we said that mass is mainly made up of protons and neutrons. So it only makes sense that a mass number is protons plus neutrons, okay? Mass number is not the same as the average atomic mass, which is on the periodic table. The average atomic mass is the average mass of all isotopes on the planet, okay? And we're going to talk more about isotopes tomorrow, okay? We know that your atomic number is the number of protons and the number of electrons in a neutral atom. And the mass number is the number of protons and the number of neutrons added up together. So given that information, we can find the number of neutrons, right, by taking whatever my mass number is and subtracting our atomic number. And this is an important equation that we are going to need to know in the next exercises that we do. One last thing before we pause the video and we move on, okay? We have what's called a nuclear notation, and that means, okay, that we can write it down. Here is your chemical symbol, right? Here is your mass number, here is your atomic number. So if we go back to our example on neon, right, we can now interpret that and write it as a nuclear notation, right? We saw that neon had an atomic number of 10. So we put the atomic number here. We know that neon has a chemical symbol of Ne. And I tell you at the top, if I have 10 neutrons and 10 protons, my mass number is the sum of the two, so I would have 20. That number now goes here. This is how we write nuclear notation for every individual atom. What I want you guys to do now is to complete this practice table and check the solution station.